That bullshit guy, I hate him.
What do you think is going to happen in that Gaethje Paddy fight?
Justin, sometimes he fights so good, sometimes so bad. I hope Justin Gaethje not gonna drink, party, gonna train, dedicate himself, be focused. It's his last chance in this life. Hopefully, he's gonna overstrike him on the feet, and then Paddy gonna try to wrestle him, and he's gonna defend his wrestling and win by decision. Justin, if you need the help, let me know. I'll apply it to you.
This interim title fight is happening for one reason. The champion is going through an absolute nightmare in his personal life and can't defend his belt. And what started as a simple replacement bout has turned into the most heated debate in MMA right now, with legends picking sides and fans losing their minds over who's going to win this thing.
Not happening. It's Justin or Baddy now. Baddy got to get past Justin. Justin's a tough fight, bro. I don't know. A lot of people sleeping on Justin.
So here's what makes this whole situation completely wild. Ilia Topuria, the guy who's supposed to be defending his featherweight championship, had to step away from fighting entirely because his personal life is falling apart. Back in November, he posted on social media, and you could feel the pain in his words, that he wouldn't be competing at all during the first quarter of this year. The man is going through divorce proceedings, which anyone who's experienced knows is absolutely devastating, and he's prioritizing his kids during what's probably the worst time of their lives. That's heavy, real-life stuff that makes fighting seem insignificant. But here's the kicker. His absence created this massive vacuum at the top of the division. The UFC, being the UFC, couldn't just wait around, so they threw together this interim title fight between Justin Gaethje, a hardened veteran who's been through wars, and Paddy Ferguson, this rising star whose rapid climb through the rankings has been equal parts impressive and controversial. And now the entire MMA world is split down the middle about who's going to walk away with that interim gold.
Really easy.
Yeah, easy.
That's a crazy thing to say because Justin Gaethje's a fucking animal.
Yeah, but he doesn't know how to grapple, and Paddy knows
But
that.
he's a Division I wrestler. He knows how to grapple. You don't think he knows how to grapple? He just chooses not to.
Did you ever saw him submitting someone?
I don't believe he's ever submitted someone, but I think that's because he likes to just crush people.
Everyone likes is to dominate people and to win as soon as possible. If you have the ability to submit someone as soon as you can, you would do it.
I think Justin Gaethje's mindset is to be the most violent person alive. That's one of the reasons why he lost.
Tony Ferguson, who's actually fought both of these guys during his legendary career, dropped some serious psychological insight that got everyone thinking. Instead of breaking down their technical skills or physical advantages, Ferguson focused on something way deeper, the mental game. He pointed out that Gaethje carries this weight of previous disappointments on his shoulders, having fallen short in 2 prior championship opportunities that have to haunt him every single day. Those losses don't just disappear. They linger in your mind, especially when you're stepping into another title fight, even if it's just for interim gold. Ferguson wondered if those memories of almost touching championship gold, only to have it slip away, might create this subtle but real disadvantage when the pressure peaks. Meanwhile, Pimblett approaches this moment with the unburdened enthusiasm of someone experiencing something completely new. He doesn't know enough to be scared yet, and that fearlessness could be absolutely dangerous for Gaethje.
Not bad, dude. Paddy's not bad. He's very beatable, and Gaethje's very beatable as well. But when it goes into the passion and how upsetting Justin Gaethje has always been about not getting that real title shot, and they just keep dangling it right there again, Paddy's in for a new treat, right? Paddy's the one that's never fought for a belt. He's going in there. He's going to be trying to, get that stuff. He's going to feel a little bit more fresher. He's going to have that little bit of excitedness in my opinion.
But here's where it gets interesting. Din Thomas took a completely different approach, looking at this fight through pure tactics and matchmaking. In his breakdown, he basically said Pimblett has stumbled onto the most realistic path to championship gold he's ever going to get. The lightweight division is absolutely stacked with killers right now, guys like Arman Tsarukyan, who would probably destroy Pimblett in a straight-up fight without question. Against those elite contenders in their prime, Pimblett would struggle to implement any game plan and might get overwhelmed at every turn. But Gaethje, despite still being incredibly dangerous and capable of ending anyone's night with one shot, represents something different at this stage of his career. He's more predictable now, more established in his approach, and he doesn't have that wild unpredictability that defines the younger generation of hungry contenders. Thomas essentially argued that this might be Pimblett's only realistic shot at gold, because everyone else in the top 5 would probably smoke him.
Justin Gaethje fighting for the interim title. Whoever wins that fight will move on to fight Ilya. And I don't think that there will be a title defense for the interim title. If I was to guess, if I was to bet, there will be no title defense of the interim title. I think that the next fight for whoever wins between Paddy and Justin, I think their next fight will be Ilya Topuria. So do not think they will defend the interim title. So good movement and clarity at 155 pounds. I feel for Arman Sarukian, but this fight's going to be incredible.
Alexander Volkanovski brought champion-level perspective to this whole debate, and his take was fascinating. He's watched countless fighters rise and fall under championship pressure, so when he speaks, people listen. Volk acknowledged that Gaethje has rediscovered elements of his earlier fighting spirit and still carries devastating power that can change everything instantly. But then he said something that turned heads. He can't go against Paddy anymore at this point. The guy just keeps finding ways to win, no matter who they put in front of him. When he fought Michael Chandler, everyone thought that would be the real test, but Pimblett looked composed and stuck to his game plan even when things got chaotic. Volk emphasized that this ability to follow strategy will be absolutely crucial against Justin, who's going to try to drag him into a war. And honestly, hearing a former champion give Pimblett that level of respect changes how you view this fight completely.
Pimblett and Justin Gaethje, who do you favor in that fight?
I gotta go with Gaethje. I feel like he's the one that loves to like get down and throw fist for fist. And he's also got the Division I wrestling to negate some of the biggest skill sets of Paddy. Paddy's like a very dominant grappler when it comes to submissions. I think Gaethje has the tools to keep it where he wants it.
Uriah Faber dissected the matchup with the quiet confidence of someone who spent decades at the highest level, and his analysis leaned heavily toward Gaethje. His reasoning centered on one key question: who feels most comfortable when fights descend into absolute chaos? Both fighters willingly engage in violent exchanges, and neither lacks courage for even a second. But Faber recognized something distinct about Gaethje's relationship with violence that sets him apart. The man thrives in mayhem. He gets more dangerous as fights get wilder, while most fighters start making mistakes. Faber's point was simple: when this fight inevitably turns into a war, and it will, Gaethje has been in those trenches more often and knows how to navigate that chaos better than almost anyone in the sport. That experience in the dark places of fights could be the deciding factor.
8 years ago, what's like the first thing that comes to mind when you think of that fight with Justin?
That I'm glad it's over and I never want to do it again. I'm like, the fans don't ever ask for a rematch or anything like that, because that would have never. I'm like, I'm glad. He's unique, man, and he's one of my favorite guys to watch. So like, but if you want to beat Justin Gaethje, you have to. So he's a forward fighter and a pressure fighter that he will stand in the pocket, and he's gonna throw everything he got in that pocket. If you don't meet him, you'll get chewed up. So Paddy, the way to beat a guy who like does this, very violent, aggressive pressure fighter, you have to meet him. You have to throw when he throws. So you got to be brave, and you have to go when he goes in between his shots. If you do that, you got a fair shot. If you don't do that, if you're not brave and courageous and throw when he throws in between his shots, it's going to be a really long night. It's going to be a hard night for
Eddie Alvarez, the guy who handed Gaethje his first UFC defeat, took the conversation in a completely different direction that made everyone stop and think. For Alvarez, the outcome wouldn't be determined by talent or physical gifts, but by how intelligently Pimblett prepared for the unique challenges ahead. Gaethje brings this intensity and relentless pressure that's impossible to replicate in any training environment, no matter how good your gym is. Alvarez experienced it firsthand and still remembers the constant collisions, the unrelenting pressure that never lets up, and the feeling of never getting a moment to breathe. If Pimblett surrounded himself with familiar training partners who couldn't simulate that specific level of chaos, he'd be doing himself a massive disservice. The first time he truly felt Gaethje's real pressure would be inside the cage under the lights, and by then it would be way too late to adjust. Alvarez wasn't questioning Pimblett's heart, but adapting to an unfamiliar style in real time against someone as explosive as Gaethje is basically a recipe for disaster.
Like, they're just basically saying Paddy's more popular, you're getting it over Arman.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, right? And that's, I mean, God, I hate like how I kind of get into this too much, but I mean, that's really like, that's the definition of, monopoly, where a single promoter owns the title and the rankings. And it's not a good thing for the sport, in my opinion. And I have to question what it's going to do for the longevity of the sport. You know, I don't think in the short term it's really going to make a big difference, right? Like, you know, it's going to sell the next fight, right? It's going to sell the next pay-per-view. But trends tend to come and go, right? Fads tend to come and go. At some point, like, you know, to have staying power and lasting power, I think it requires, you know, a meritocracy-based system. It's going to require, you know, some, you know, if you want to bring in guys like Arman Tsarukyan or Movsar Evloev, I always mess up how I say his name. You know, you want to bring in these Olympic wrestling level guys. I mean, they don't want to have to go out there and put on some ridiculous show to become a champion. They don't want to have to go on Instagram and start a podcast and make you know, whatever kind of skits on social media and this silly kind of stuff. Like, they just want to be a world champion because they want to be the best athlete. And that's what makes me wonder how the staying power is going to be, right? When you're dealing with guys that are, you know, legitimate athletes that want to be legitimate athletes, and they're getting passed up by guys that are
Charles Oliveira provided insight rooted in direct experience, having faced Geithch in one of the most memorable lightweight title fights in recent memory. He understood better than most how explosive and dangerous Geithch can be, because he stood directly across from him in that cage before ultimately securing a submission victory. Oliveira broke it down simply: Pimblett strikes well, can take fights to the ground, and constantly moves and changes angles. But he warned that Pimblett won't want to exchange blows with Geithch standing, because that's playing with fire. He'll probably try to take it to the ground where he's more comfortable. If he decides to trade in the pocket, he could absolutely get knocked out cold. But if he commits to the takedown, he has a real chance to become champion through his grappling. Still, Oliveira admitted he'd like to see Geithch come out victorious because of what he represents as a fighter's fighter.
You know, I'm not looking to grapple, but I have no issue, you know, with the grappling department, and my ability to keep people from taking me down is second to none. So he's going to have to, you know, compromise me with his punches and kicks, and then, you know, if that happens, then he'll have a better chance. But this is such a crazy game, you know, you just never know. Maybe I'll
Matt Brown entered the discussion with broader frustrations about what this fight represents in the UFC's current landscape. For Brown, Pimblett's rapid elevation to an interim title fight felt less like a reward earned through beating elite contenders, and more like a promotional calculation based on marketability rather than merit. He pointed specifically to Arman Tsarukyan as someone who had done everything correctly, defeating high-level competition consistently, yet somehow found himself on the outside looking in while a fighter with a less impressive resume got the title opportunity. Brown's commentary carried heavy undertones of cynicism about how the sport has evolved, suggesting that social media following and ability to generate buzz now carry as much weight as actual competitive achievements inside the cage. It's a harsh reality that many fighters and fans struggle with in today's UFC.
I had to get in the cage with him and fight him, but I feel bad saying it because I've said it already. I think I'm going to retire him.
Is that where you think he is in his career? You think he's...
Yeah, I think he could be on the verge, on the precipice of retiring. He said himself he was going to retire if he didn't get a title shot, so when I beat him, he's not going to get another title shot, is he?
Geithch himself has made his intentions crystal clear heading into this fight. He understands that many fans would prefer to see Pimblett face Topuria for the undisputed championship when he returns, viewing that potential matchup as more compelling given both fighters' rising profiles and contrasting personalities. That potential bout has already drawn comparisons to the long-anticipated, but never realized fight between Tony Ferguson and Khabib Nurmagomedov, a fight that captured everyone's imagination for years, but never materialized despite being booked multiple times. Geithch seems almost energized by the prospect of disrupting those preferred plans and playing spoiler to the narrative everyone wants. He's stated plainly that he intends to win decisively and derail the Pimblett hype train completely, delivering a statement performance that forces everyone to acknowledge him as the rightful next challenger who deserves his shot at undisputed gold.
My years of fighting, so I'm looking forward to one.
Is that what you want?
Yeah, of course. Always want one.
So you never had a war you want to start it by doing it with Justin Gaethje?
Yeah.
Where's your head at, man?
It's firmly screwed on my shoulders, lad, but people are laughing at me when I'm saying I'm going to stand with him, but I am. People think that I'm just going to shoot in the first 10 seconds. I'm not. I'm going to stand with him, and I'm going to put it on him, and people are going to be like, wow, we weren't lying. He's more of a boxer with leg kicks, and I'm an MMA striker. I don't do just boxing or Thai boxing or kickboxing or taekwondo or karate. I'm an MMA striker, and you'll see that when I fight.
Meanwhile, Pimblett approaches this massive fight with supreme confidence, like someone who always expected to reach this point eventually. He stated matter-of-factly that fighting for a championship felt inevitable regardless of the specific path, making this opportunity to face a respected veteran like Gaethje feel like proper validation for all his efforts. Looking beyond this fight, Pimblett envisions not just defeating Gaethje convincingly, but subsequently beating Topuria for the undisputed title, defending that championship multiple times, and eventually moving up to welterweight to capture gold in a second division. Those are incredibly ambitious goals that speak to supreme self-belief, though critics might view them as premature given his current resume and the level of competition he's actually faced so far in his UFC career. Regarding the build-up, Pimblett expects a respectful atmosphere without manufactured drama that sometimes characterizes major UFC events. He's actually met Gaethje at various events, finding him polite and cordial in personal interactions when cameras weren't around. He draws parallels to his fight with Michael Chandler in terms of mutual respect, while fully understanding that everything changes the second that cage door closes. Pimblett has expressed genuine admiration for Gaethje, acknowledging his status as a fighter's fighter whose bouts consistently deliver entertainment and never disappoint fans. This respectful build-up actually makes the fight more intriguing because you know both men will bring everything they have without needing fake animosity to motivate them. So there you have it, two fighters with completely different paths to this moment, backed by legends who can't agree on who's going to win. Gaethje brings experience, devastating power, and comfort in chaos. Pimblett brings momentum, grappling skills, and the fearlessness of youth. This isn't just about an interim title, it's about who gets to face Topuria next and potentially control the division's future. And honestly, the fact that legitimate champions and former champions are split down the middle tells you everything about how unpredictable this fight really is. So here's my question. Drop it in the comments. Does Gaethje's experience and power overcome Pimblett's momentum and grappling, or is this the moment a new star is born? If this breakdown helped you understand what's really at stake, smash that like button, subscribe for more MMA analysis, and hit the notification bell because this division is about to get turned upside down. I'll see you in the next one. The more I think about this matchup, the more I realize we might be witnessing something historically significant here. This isn't just another interim title fight. This could be the moment that completely reshapes how we view championship paths in the UFC. Think about it. If Pimblett wins, he'll have essentially skipped an entire generation of elite contenders and proven that timing and opportunity matter just as much as grinding through ranked opponents. But if Gaethje takes it, he validates the traditional path of earning your shots through years of wars and near misses. What's absolutely fascinating is how this fight exposes the generational divide in MMA right now. Gaethje represents that old-school mentality where you prove yourself through violence and attrition. He's taken ungodly amounts of damage to get here, survived wars that would end most careers, and built his reputation on pure heart and knockout power. That's the traditional championship path. You bleed for every inch, you earn respect through suffering, and you don't get handed opportunities based on potential alone. Meanwhile, Pimblett embodies this new era where social media presence, marketability, and the ability to capture moments can accelerate your trajectory in ways that were impossible even 5 years ago. He's not just a fighter, he's a brand, a personality, a cultural phenomenon that transcends the sport itself. But here's what nobody's talking about enough, the psychological warfare that's already happening beneath the surface. Gaethje has been in this exact position before, standing on the precipice of championship gold, only to watch it slip away at the crucial moment. That kind of repeated disappointment either breaks fighters completely or forges them into something unbreakable. The question is which version of Gaethje shows up on fight night. Does he carry the weight of those previous failures, second-guessing himself when the moment demands complete commitment? Or has he learned from those experiences and developed the mental fortitude to finally break through when it matters most? Because let's be real, interim titles are nice, but everyone knows they're just placeholders until you can fight for the real thing. On the flip side, Pimblett's confidence might actually be his greatest weapon and his most dangerous weakness simultaneously. That unwavering self-belief has carried him through every challenge so far, allowing him to stay composed when fights get chaotic and execute game plans when others might panic. But confidence can quickly become arrogance when you haven't been truly tested at the highest level. Geethich isn't just another step up in competition. He's a quantum leap into a different universe of violence and intensity. The first time Pimblett eats one of those signature Geethich leg kicks, or gets caught in a prolonged exchange where Geethich is hunting for his head, we'll discover if that confidence is built on solid foundation or just youthful ignorance of what elite-level punishment actually feels like. The tactical breakdown gets even more interesting when you consider their respective corners and coaching staffs. Geethich has been working with some of the most respected minds in the sport, people who have seen every possible scenario play out in championship fights. They know how to prepare for the unique pressures of title fights, how to manage adrenaline dumps, how to make adjustments between rounds when everything is on the line. Pimblett's team is talented, but they're navigating uncharted territory here. None of them have been in an interim title fight before. That inexperience could lead to crucial mistakes in preparation or poor advice during the fight itself when split-second decisions determine outcomes. What's really wild is how this fight could completely change both of their career trajectories regardless of who wins. If Geethich loses, he's probably done with title shots forever. At his age, with the wars he's been through, this is almost certainly his last realistic chance at gold. The division will move on without him, and he'll spend the rest of his career as a gatekeeper fighting young contenders trying to make their names. That's a harsh reality, but it's the nature of this sport. Opportunities don't come around forever, especially when you're dealing with the accumulated damage of years of violent fights. For Pimblett, a loss here doesn't end his championship dreams, but it fundamentally alters his path. Suddenly, all that momentum disappears, and he's back to grinding through ranked contenders like everyone else. The mystique evaporates, and future opponents won't be intimidated by his rise anymore. They'll have a blueprint for how to handle his pressure, how to neutralize his grappling, how to exploit whatever weaknesses Geethich exposes. In a division as deep as lightweight, falling back into the pack means potentially years of rebuilding before getting another shot at the top. The timing of this whole situation adds another layer of complexity that most people aren't fully considering. Topuria's personal struggles created this opportunity, but they also put a deadline on everything. If his divorce proceedings resolve quicker than expected, if he finds a way to compartmentalize his personal issues, he could return sooner than anticipated. That means whoever wins this interim title might have a very short window to capitalize on their moment. Championship reigns can be measured in months when circumstances are volatile, and both fighters know they might only get one shot at making their mark as champion before everything changes again. The stylistic matchup becomes even more compelling when you break down their recent evolution as fighters. Geethich has clearly been working on his wrestling and grappling defense, knowing that elite lightweights will try to exploit any weaknesses on the ground. His takedown defense has improved dramatically, and he's shown better scrambling abilities in recent fights. But Pimblett's ground game isn't just about wrestling. He's genuinely dangerous with submissions, and he's crafty enough to create scrambles that lead to advantageous positions. If this fight hits the mat, we're not just talking about Pimblett controlling position. We're talking about legitimate finish opportunities that could end Geethich's night in spectacular fashion. Standing up, the dynamics are equally fascinating. Pimblett's striking has evolved significantly since joining the UFC, but he's never faced someone with Geethich's combination of power, timing, and experience in high-pressure situations. Those leg kicks alone could completely change the complexion of the fight if they land consistently. We've seen how Geeth's kicks have affected elite fighters, compromising their movement and forcing them to abandon their game plans. If Pimblett's mobility gets compromised early, his ability to create angles and set up takedowns disappears, leaving him standing directly in front of one of the most dangerous knockout artists in the division.